and glad to be here for this morning session. I'm going to introduce the panel to join me on stage now. And the first person you just actually heard from was Magnus. I'd like him to join me on stage from Volvo Cars. So Magnus, if you could help to come out. He's hiding backstage. Thanks, Magnus. And the second one is Josh Poster. He's the Intel and Analysis Director for Auto-ISAC. So Josh, if you could also join us on stage. And last but not least, we have someone joining us virtually. His name is, if I go back to the previous slide, Sina. Sina, you can see already on screen. Hi, Sina. So Sina is our master of Pawn to One, and he's joining us remotely. He's some challenges to make it here in person today, so he's going to join us virtually to join us on the panel. So yeah, welcome everybody. And one thing I'd like to do is to kick off the session to a little bit softer introduction and become a little bit more intimate with each other and actually understand our personalities a little bit. So one of the questions I generally like to ask is, if you were to describe our personality as a car, how would you describe that? So for me personally, I would describe myself, just to kick it off, would be probably someone who's a little bit understated, a little bit more humble, but like to, I would describe myself as like a 5 Series BMW, but a hybrid, specifically a hybrid. And, adoption of new technology, but also some heritage in the bank from the past that we can kind of take forward. But I'd like to have a little bit under the hood in regards to performance. So a little bit understated, but functional in regards to being able to achieve every task that I need to do. So that would kind of sum up my personality. Not very exciting. I'm sure the guys in the panel will have a lot more exciting answers than me. But so maybe I'll go to Magnus next, and maybe you can give us a little bit of insight into your personality.
Thanks. It changes during time, of course, in my head. I think from when I was younger, I was in the sport cars industry and really energized by having fast cars. And Volvo made some great cars here with yellow with tuned engines and quite fast one. But then my life changed, and family father of 2 kids trying to get the commute with lots of kids in the car. I realized also my contribution to my first car actually was the EX90 that you can see on the streets today. Still, that was part of my journey to the contribution to a safe and resilient car. And that we have 7-seaters in those, so I can bring lots of family, we can collaborate, and lots of dialogues in that one. So I see myself nowadays a bit more mature and trying to work on the XC90 safe and secure and resilient vehicle.
Keeping the family safe as well.
Yep.
Very good. So Josh, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you're throwing this question out to me just in the green room over there. So, but probably pretty easy for me, I guess. I'd just say probably some kind of Ford F-150 or some kind of utility vehicle. I mean, I just try and ensure that I can do whatever I need to get done. Make sure that you're getting there safe and, maybe not as quick as you want, but definitely going to end up in the right place. You need to get off-road, you need to get on-road, drive in the city, drive on the trails. We'll make it happen.
So what I heard is we'll hear you coming.
You'll definitely hear me coming. And if I rust through, then you can still get me. I'll still get you there. Don't worry about it.
So and also you can navigate some rough terrain. You can get stuff done.
I try my best. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So we go to Sina next. So Sina, maybe you can give us a bit of insight into your personality and how would you describe yourself?
Hi, hello everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yep.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Sina. I'm a cybersecurity researcher for a couple of years, and recently I was lucky to be participating in the Automotive 2025 edition in Japan, and then managed to demonstrate exploitability on a couple of targets. And thank you for having me.
Very good. You might have missed my question, though. So my question is, if you were to describe yourself as a vehicle or car, how would you describe your personality?
To be honest with you, that's a tough question for me because my English is not very good, and I think I will have a hard time to describe myself as a car. So yes, let's just go with the initial answer, just a security researcher.
Very good. Straight into the topic. We love it. We love it.
Computer on wheels, right?
Okay. So yeah, in the spirit of let's getting stuck into the topic, let's do that. So, Sina, you mentioned you had the privilege to participate in Pawn to One. So maybe for the audience that are maybe not aware, maybe you can give a quick, I think Kalli actually gave some introduction earlier to everybody on Pawn to One. So maybe just from your experience and over the last 3 to 4 years involved, maybe you can give a quick overview of what that experience has been like for you.
Of course. Pawn to One, for those who don't know, who haven't heard about it, it's an annual cybersecurity competition. If I'm not wrong, it's 3 times a year. Right now, one of it is in Japan, the other in Berlin, Germany, and the other in Cork, Ireland. These 3 editions of the competition cover automotive industry, and then SOHO, like IoT, SOHO, working on printers, routers, and stuff like that. And then the other one will be about enterprise-grade solutions, enterprise softwares, and AI as well. For example, Microsoft Exchange or SharePoint, or it also has other subcategories like or main categories like virtualization, like VMware VirtualBox, those kind of critical enterprise softwares. And this competition is widely well known. It's been around for ages, more than, if I'm not wrong with the numbers, maybe more than 10 years. It invites all researchers from around the world, the best of the best, to compete in this competition. It's usually 3 or 4 days where people will sign up, they show up, and they have a limited window of time and limited number of attempts to demonstrate their exploits and the security flaws in any software or any target that they have chosen. The good thing about this competition is it's a very tough competition because it wants to demonstrate real world targets, real scenarios, and no special configuration or no insecure configuration or anything. Everything is configured properly, and people are expected to show exploits on a secure target, on a supposedly secure target. The prizes are very good as well. Trend Micro, Zero Day Initiative of Trend Micro, also working with VicOne, have awarded more than $1 million multiple times to the contestants. And the first person who the person who has the most targets exploited in the competition will be nominated as a Master of Pawn, which means they managed to bring the most targets, gather the most points, and gather the most monetary prize for the competition. I think that kind of summarizes it, but one last thing to mention is this competition plays a very, very important role because it's a competition that is taken care of by very, very good researchers, teams like VicOne and Zero Day Initiative of Trend Micro, who have a lot of good researchers inside their companies who will do the judging process, testing, setup, and everything, which is a lot of work. And they take care of everything, and they make sure everything goes right. And then after they receive the reports, after they receive the exploits, they will make sure that these reports are handed over to the right people, to the right vendor, and they're used in the right manner. That's all.
Perfect. Thanks, Sina. And actually, that's the conversation we want to get into, is especially around the theme of this year's event, is building resilience together and how we actually share more of that. So we'll get into that in a second. I wanted to ask you a quick question, and just for the audience, Sina actually had 14 successful exploits at the event itself for zero-day identifications. And he actually amassed a total of 30.5 points, far above the second place team, which was Synactive, who were winners last year. And Sina actually operates as a single person a lot of the time. And I remember we had a panel discussion previously, and I asked Sina the question, and this is interesting because he told me he's not an AI expert. And I asked him, how do you compete with the likes of Synactive? So maybe you can share that quick answer on how you compete with some of the larger teams as a single individual.
Great question. Teams such as Synactive and rest of the great people there, they're extremely talented. For example, Synactive as an example, they have, if I'm not at least from my perspective, they have the best French researchers that exist. They have all of them at disposal, and with great knowledge. They have departments and teams in hardware hacking, software hacking, everything, all the areas from radio to anything. And competing against these teams tend to be very, very difficult. It is always difficult, never gets easier. I was lucky that the last time I had enough exploits and enough successful entries to be able to gather more points. Competing against these teams as a solo researcher would be, as I said, difficult. One thing that could make it easier is having automations, having scripts, having tools, using AI. For example, maybe you can make your own AI bots to take care of some things that are tedious and taking a lot of time from you. Because you're a solo researcher, if you maybe can save time in those tedious tasks. Then you can put your focus on the things that are more difficult at the time right now to be automated or to be handed over to an AI bot.
Yeah, this is a really interesting concept. When I heard this, actually, I was quite alarmed that how Sina, who's probably one of the elite ethical hackers in the world, is using AI to speed up and expand his capabilities to actually infiltrate. So when threat actors take a similar role, they're going to employ the same tactics. So this is something I found really interesting when you provided that answer. So very quickly before I go to Magnus, and maybe I know as part of the prep we asked this question around what is the one advice you would give to the Auto-ISAC community here in regards to your experience and some of the vulnerabilities that you've seen. How easy it is to actually exploit the breadth and the scale of it, and also maybe the time we talked about disclosure process. What is the one kind of highlight you would highlight to the Auto-ISAC community that they probably need to do a little bit different in future?
One advice that I could give is I'm not a automotive expert. I'm just like a generic security researcher. No matter what the product is, either it's an automotive piece of equipment, or it's a or it's just a software that any user runs at their desktop machine, or any IoT product or anything it is. I try to just find ways to break it. So again, I'm not an automotive expert. From my experience, from my limited and small experience in the automotive industry, seeing these targets, I still see a lot of low-hanging fruits, a lot of very common vulnerabilities, such as command injections, or not verifying the update files that the vendors install on the firmwares. You can just package up a update file, put it on a USB, and then connect it, and then install it. No signature checking, no certificates, no integrity, nothing. And then your other vendors, you see command injections in the everywhere around the place. And vendors been using hard-coded cryptography keys, hard-coded passwords for sensitive services on their infotainments or their EV charger or whatnot. I think maybe at least for those vendors that I've seen, maybe just going over, just starting from the ground up, going through the basics again, have them deploying static and dynamic solutions for finding vulnerabilities. For dynamic, maybe fuzzing. For static, maybe purchasing or implementing or using even open source products that do source code analysis, finding all the dangerous functions, finding all the dangerous APIs that they're using. You would think they would be doing that, but at least 60%, which is more than 50 yet, 60% of the ones that I've seen aren't doing any of those stuff, and then they've just been focused on delivering the product, the design of the product, the features of the product, and all that. The security wise, like almost nothing. So yeah, maybe
okay.
employing a
lots of low-hanging fruit is what I hear. So yeah, and I'm not sure. Maybe just to move on, but I'm not sure what the EV charging industry had against, but I think you like 12 successful exploits against EV charging equipment. So I'm not sure what the EV charging community did, but you definitely took some frustration out on them this year. So very well done, and congratulations on Master of Ponto 1. So I think that leads into in regards to blue side and actually protecting against this. Magnus, you talked in your keynote around some of the measures that you guys are taking. One of the things we identified in Ponto 1 specifically, for example, is when you have highly motivated individuals which are highly incentivized, that it's quite easily for them to identify critical and actually zero-day vulnerabilities where nobody else knows about these yet. So, for example, 49 vulnerabilities disclosed in 3 days. And we were chatting off stage, and one of the challenges is, and we know the disclosure process is a difficult process in automotive industry because of, there's a safety implication, there's legal implication, there's brand implication. It's not a typical easy problem to solve generally. And if we look at the IT space, it's quite mature, it's quite well established. There's a 90-day disclosure process. Everybody has to follow the same rules. But in the automotive world, it's self-deterministic. Everybody determines the release schedule. When you do your pen testing, when you do your internal research, when you take external sources, it's self-deterministic on the disclosure. And we were chatting about, in a what-if scenario, we know that at some point we see, I think actually Sina's even validated this, is the technical barrier of entry is actually quite low. The maturity level is low, the adoption of in different in areas. So the challenge will be if and when threat actors actually start to take advantage to monetize that. And when that external critical point becomes so high that these external triggers force us to now react a little bit differently. So in that what-if scenario, how do you envisage that world? Are you prepared for it? What are you guys doing about it? And what is any kind of lessons or advice you give to the community here?
I mean, I think I shared that from some of the slide decks there, showing that, of course, safety is there from the default, right? And that means also we need to do activities on our side to actually monitor the threat landscape, learn, do risk assessment, right? Continuously evolve. We are just in the phase where we have set the foundation. So we are still navigating as a company, I would say, to be transparent, what to do and how to manage all these observations that we have, the potential vulnerabilities, right? It's all about working with the offensive test suite and finding a good way of collaborating and sharing that information. And in the end, the OEMs take the responsibility when they do a judgment, their risk judgment, right, of how to relate to it. I would say for Volvo cars, it's clear what vision we have. You saw the film, right? The safety is a prior one. Coming into that zone, we will act quite hard from our side. So I think it's the collaboration with the researchers that contributes with offensive test suits in combination with our own risk appetite. And the only way I can find is the collaboration. We don't have all answers yet. I can see maturity that you're also exposed into on some other products that is not the car, and that you identify that we can see same patterns, I would say. That there is, of course, and then you need to, as an OEM, you need to decide how you relate to those kind of attacks that can happen on the external equipment, basically. So you need to make sure that you have a self-contained vehicle. That is, you assume that these are actually evil when you connect to them. And then you need to have your preventing measures for that one.
So making sure you have all the right measures in place to react correctly and quickly and efficiently in a way that's protect your interests.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Magnus. And Josh, maybe briefly you can give a quick intro of your role in Auto-ISAC and especially around the collaboration around intelligence sharing.
Sure, yeah. So as Director of Intelligence Analysis at the Auto-ISAC, it's basically my job to ensure that we're able to deliver on our core mission to enable members to share intelligence with each other. Primarily, we spend our time developing and delivering intelligence, but we stop all activity to make sure that we're able to help our members do the thing that they've kind of joined the Auto-ISAC to do, which is help each other in sharing information around vulnerabilities, around attacks that they're experiencing. We found, and as he was saying, commonalities in experiences that members have at their own companies, especially around, of course, cybersecurity issues. That's our primary focus. We want to make sure that we're able to recognize what those are, and when the willingness is there to share, that we're enabling that to the best of our ability in a seamless way. And I think that that's really important to do, to be responsive to that. And in order to do so, we position ourselves to be ready for it, but we also need to understand what our members need in that arena. What intelligence they need to better protect themselves. What can we do to help them feel comfortable with it, to help them build the trust with one another, to share that information. So I guess that's kind of my job in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things we were discussing, Josh, was one of the issues when it comes to zero-day vulnerabilities is that there's a time window, and a time window from the point where the researcher, like Sina, identifies a vulnerability, and it's going through the disclosure process, and like Magnus alluded to, there's different companies are different ready for it. There's different risk appetites, and sometimes that's maybe a faster disclosure process, which is probably more in the 90-day region. Sometimes that takes up to a year or even more. How do you feel about OEMs or tier ones sitting on vulnerabilities that somebody has found, someone else could find, and also take advantage? And how do you feel about in a situation where you're part of that conversation, or being privy to some of that information and wanting to get that solved?
Yeah.
What's that challenge like?
Yeah, well, it's it's an interesting one, and something I'm happy to help work through with our members. I think sitting on a vulnerability might not be the terminology to use, but understanding it and working through it in a more rapid way with a purposeful intent of getting it out, to getting that information to their fellow members so that they can better protect themselves. I mean, I think that everyone here joins the Auto-ISAC because they're concerned about cybersecurity, and no one wants to be responsible for others' harm, keeping somebody in a vulnerable position, knowing that they might be able to help. So working through that rapidly is, I think, an initiative, right? It's an imperative. But it's a young process. We're still working through how to get that done. But I think that there's ways in which we can enable that here at the Auto-ISAC to happen in a more progressive way, I suppose is a good way to put it, right? Anonymization of some information, working together in a confidential staff and individual member communications so that we can help them, perhaps help the member understand what part of that information might be best relayed to other members to help them at least position themselves to be ready for that disclosure when it is comfortable to share.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I mean, like, we're handling 60% of all the vulnerabilities that are disclosed publicly already, and it's a challenge for us to get through that disclosure process with all the OEMs and the tier ones. But like as we chatted about, and in the spirit of building resilience together, VicOne is committed to working with Auto-ISAC to find ways to address those challenges around how to maybe give earlier access, how to get more curated information that's ready for dissemination in the community. So I guess we have a commitment to work together to figure out a way to solve that problem. And our intent is to bring more of this, especially post disclosure information, faster to the community. So we're going to find some way to figure that out together.
Yeah, well, I mean, an important comment that was made was that a lot of the vulnerabilities that Known that are found are common, right? They're common throughout various systems, and I think that if we can get that information out early, obviously that commonality can be addressed in some way.
Yeah, and I presume if we did a show of hands, we would, everybody would like to receive that information quicker versus later, I guess. So yeah, so I think we're just on time. So I'd like to thank Magnus for your Magnus, for your participation. Josh also,
yeah.
and Sina remotely. Pity you couldn't join us in person, but thanks for all the contribution. And I'm sure we could have talked for hours longer. But
we did yesterday. Yeah, thanks
exactly.
for the questions. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thanks.